Welcome to Future Foodcast. I'm Pam Miller, your host, where we are bringing food industry experts, technologists, innovators, all in the food space to give you the latest and greatest of what's happening. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Farm to Plate, which is a software company committed to creating tomorrow's food business ecosystem today. Our guest today is so interesting. Newton Hoang he wears multiple hats at Seven Leaves Cafe. He's officially the director of marketing and IT, but he just says he's a restaurant guy. Welcome to the podcast, Newton.
Thank you so much for having me, Pam.
Yeah, wearing all those hats, you really are a restaurant guy. Why don't you tell us what's happening at Seven Leaves Cafe, how you got there, and what the focus is?
No, appreciate that. Things that we have going on to Seven Leaves Cafe, the short version is we're a brand that's just about a decade old and specializing in the coffee and tea category. We're primarily based in Southern California, but we do have reach in Texas, Nevada, as well as our very first store that we just opened up last year in Georgia. So that was our first foray into the East Coast. My journey here, like many folks in the industry, was just a decision that I'd made to lend my services to a brand that was up and coming. I'd always been following Seven Leaves Cafe for a multitude of years, and one thing led to another, and they made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. But I've been in the industry for about 2.5 decades. I might have possibly aged myself there in a little capacity, but serving marketing roles for the majority of my career, and just recently in the last decade, kind of added the technology feather in my cap. So,
which is such an interesting combination because you're actually combining your marketing experience and your technology experience to affect the customer experience at Seven Leaves. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would say that early on in my career, I was actually birthed out of operations. And so I made a hard pivot in my late 20s to kind of get all in on the world of marketing. And back then, technology was slightly nuanced, actually kind of two independent disciplines, if you think about it. And, just out of sheer frustration, not being able to pull meaningful data because technology was, again, in its earliest stages, I decided to just engross myself in that world and had, a few unfortunate victims teach me a few things here and there. And I have made it a point to intersect those lanes to be kind of my overarching DNA, and the empowerment that I get, unlike, for example, a couple of other marketing or technology leaders, is the fact that I kind of understands two sides of that animal, and so I can iterate and strategize the marketing component, but have very clear line of sight on what the technology tools and outcomes are going to be. So having that foresight is really kind of where I feel I've made myself relevant to brands that I partner with, and moreover, kind of created career longevity for myself.
Absolutely. Well, and how do you put that together to affect that customer experience? Like I, as a customer of Seven Leaves Cafe, what am I seeing that's really innovative in that space? Because you are innovative.
Yeah, innovation versus creation are kind of two different things. But if there's anything that the last 2.5, 3 years have taught us, is that digital is table stakes. And so, relative to marketing and the acquisition versus retention strategy, one of the things that we use to great success here is our mobile app ecosystem. And I see what other QSRs and food and beverage companies are using, and our app experience was actually birthed out of necessity. There was a long stretch intention to have a mobile app, but the pandemic just fast tracked that for us, like many others in this arena. Now, what we didn't realize as a pleasant surprise is how enabling the mobile app experience was for our Seven Leaves customer, in by which we bolster 550,000 downloads year to date. And so when you think of a brand relative to size, that is unheard of in at least my many years of being in the industry. Yes. And we have about a 60 to 65% active user database, meaning people who obviously use it on a weekly cadence. They're is kind of a lot of underlying things that many technologists have is data. So we have a visibility to customer purchase patterns, so on and so forth. And therefore, from a marketing, I can get very surgical about inserting activity into each of my stores based upon regionality or competitive intrusion or just whatever is going on, and not just have a peanut butter approach, if that makes any sense. And so
Yeah.
we're much more optimized and we're much more efficient with a lot of our digital marketing strategies.
Right. I love that you now are getting the data in a usable form so that you can make some decisions for individual stores or regions and decide how you're going to do, I'm assuming, promotions or serve those customers, or I mean, what kind of decisions does the data help fuel?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a potpourri of many things, like
Okay.
anything else. Sometimes it's just simply creating awareness on a product, right? It doesn't
Okay.
have to be tied to a promo. It doesn't have to be discount driven. It's just to kind of keep it top of mind. And because we understand the customer's tendencies, we can then theoretically nudge them in a certain direction. So, we have our customers identify what their favorite drink is. And so if there's a subclass of drinks that are very similar, we might kind of poke at them and say like, hey, would you like to try this particular item, and to kind of create some conversion in their world so that they really kind of have a more broad visibility to our brand. Right. I know we're all creatures of habit, but sometimes getting some conversion into a different drink category really kind of opens their eyes and creates more affinity. And so that's something that we do regularly, A, B, C, and D testing all the time.
Nice. And you can also take them, if they're at A, you're not going to take them all the way to Z, but you might take them to B or C. And it's a small change and kind of a little bit closer to their comfort zone. So maybe they're willing to make that small step, is what I'm hearing you say. So you can kind of tailor that a little bit. I like that a lot. And one of the other things, because the stickiness you have with your customers and your apps, I think people listening to this that are anywhere close to your market, as far as having an app and wanting to keep their customers, that whole stickiness factor, they're going to want to know how you do it. And one of the things you shared with me was about some of the things you do community to connect your stores with their community, that then gets the customers connected through your stores with their community. Can you explain that a little bit? It's a genius marketing.
I don't know if I characterize it as genius, but
Okay. Well,
definitely something that we do with a lot of humility. I think, like anything else, we have emblazoned on our cup the statement of "Be the change that you wish to see in the world."
okay.
And in my journey through many different brands, this proposition of Seven Leaves Cafe, I essentially propped up what we call cause marketing, and creating a strategy around galvanizing our customer base to allow our brand to do good in the communities that we occupy. And
Okay.
so through email or mobile app or social, whatever you want to message that out, in a nutshell, we work with our customer base to stand behind a certain goodness, is what we call it. And in that united front, we as a community of customers and brand are able to do what we can in the communities that we occupy. So, as a very quick and candid example of that, the back end of last year, we had something called the Season of Goodness, in by which we, in October, had a book drive, November was a food drive, and December was consequently a toy drive. And each of those months, we asked our customers to bring in those items. The give and the take was obviously, when they do that, we then awarded them, free goodies and drinks and whatnot. Long story short, through overwhelming response, we had a tsunami of like 10,500 that we put back into libraries and into local penitentiaries, because inmates need literary enrichment too. We had 7.5 tons of canned food going to homeless shelters and soup kitchens, as well as humane societies, because our four-legged friends need some love there. And then in December, we had truckfuls of toys, because we kind of just felt that no kid should not have any thing for the holiday. And then therefore, by that virtue, our customers feel that they were part of that journey. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of what we do. That's our shtick, but we do it really well.
I love that. I love that a lot. But your product is different too, because it's not just kind of the prepared when you order it kind of product. So, and that's different for me to think about. You know, your newest store in Georgia is not very far from me, and I've got a goal to go out there and try it out. Duluth's not about 40 minutes from me, and I'm gonna take a little trip over there.
Yeah,
But
no,
I'm
we
gonna
happy to
test out
invite
these
you.
products. There's love put in them, but also time. What's the background on that?
Related to our category as a whole, coffee and tea, and some would even pigeonhole us as the Asian Starbucks of the world. Most fast concepts utilize powders and syrups and the things of that nature. And one of the things that we characteristically do here at Seven Leaves is not that. All of our drinks are what we call cooked. In by way that we go through a very painstaking process of ensuring that we have the raw ingredients from their source, really from a scientific standpoint, create a product that you can taste the difference, right? So we bring in taro, we bring in mung bean, we have tea leaves and whatnot, and we go through 8 hours, 6 hours of cooking that is not efficient in terms of speed when you really think about it. But the yield to the customer is that they really are immersed with a flavor journey of, oh, this is something very different than what I expected. And ironically, we are able to execute it very quickly when we make the drink for the customer. But the behind the scenes was hours and hours of processing relative to just ensuring that there's the right amount of acidity, and that if it was steeped for just 5 minutes too long, we're going to dump it. And so that's the bullishness that we have around our product.
Yeah. So the quality is really top level,
Paramount.
paramount. Okay. Well, because I know that your menu is very intentional. I mean, you put a lot of thought in that.
Yeah, again, there's always the opportunity to offer customers a multitude of different things, which is what by nature a lot of those competitors do. But we kind of go in the opposite direction relative to we want a small menu because it allows us to produce the product consistently, effectively, and with a high amount of reliance on just optimization. Beyond that, one of the things that most coffee and tea concepts do is a varying amount of customization, and we again just don't have that as part of our DNA because we crafted it in such a way that we want you to enjoy it the way that we intended. However, if you don't enjoy it, we'll happily make you something else. But if you go to our concept, you can't say, I want a skinny, non-fat, 2%, half sweet. It just, unfortunately, is just not part of what we do. But our rabid fans tend to give us validation that like, oh yeah, we like it the way you guys do it.
Perfect. Yeah. The whole litany of added things you're adding or taking away from the coffee, that's become, a coffee meme, I guess, written on the side of the cup. So you're not that. Seven Leaves Cafe is intentional. Their recipes are meant to be enjoyed the way they've been designed, and quality is at the top, paramount for everything they do. And you know what? As a customer, you're going to get what you're expecting from Seven Leaves every single time. So, I think that's part of your stickiness, is that you're kind of making a pact with them. We have great products and we're designing them on purpose. And so please consume them, how we're designing them. And obviously they love them because you're successful opening lots of stores. You were just talking about opening a couple new stores, but you have goals for this coming year to open more. Are you at liberty to share, or I don't want to get any confidential information on the podcast?
No, Pam, I'm happy to share that news.
Okay.
And, relative to the current economic and societal landscape, opening stores is just a celebration. period.
Yeah.
And, we remain dogged on our growth strategy. And so just last month, we opened our third store in the city of Fountain Valley, California, because the citizens there demanded it. We're opening another store in Linwood, California, which is in LA County proper, and we'll be graced by a community that has not heard of us before, but we're looking very much forward to serving them. And on the coattails of that, then in the third quarter of this year, we'll be actually opening our first store in the Arizona market. The unique proposition about this store is that this will be our first corporate store outside of our backyard, quote unquote. And so we're very excited to do that. And, amongst the franchisee growth strategy, we have another store opening in Garland. We are growing at a very meaningful pace for us, right? I kind of stalk and I creep other brands, and I hear Dave's Hot Chicken on track for like 100 store growth in a year. That blows my mind how that's even executable, but a testament to them. For us, we're kind of like slow and steady wins the race, and so we're doing pretty well for ourselves.
Well, good. And you have a combination of company stores or corporate stores as well as franchises, so it's a mix. It's not just a single focused business model.
Correct.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, what's coming down the pike? I mean, there's all kinds of technology out there. So if you put your IT hat on with your app and, the things that you're doing with your customers, what thoughts do you have?
Yeah, for us, technology is an enabler, and like anything else, there's a lot of optics associated with the introduction thereof. AI is having its Cinderella moment right now by way of Chat GPT and the notoriety that brings. But I've always been kind of flirting with AI and actually have begun very cognizant steps to incorporate within our Seven Leaves universe. And so, utilizing drive-through technology in combination with artificial intelligence is not by any stretch of the imagination meant to quote unquote replace the human element, but it is by virtue meant to create order accuracy and allow our team members to do what they love, which is ultimately making a product that they're very proud of, and then doubling down on an even better customer experience when they actually get face to face. And so our ambitions and current intentions of utilizing AI, which are actually going on right now, are kind of just dialing things in and really kind of widening that lens on how I can perhaps bring in other tech stack components. So our POS is one of those things. And utilizing the proper camera technology to recognize customers either through license plate and say that when you do come up to our experience, it's not going to say like, "Hi Pam, welcome to Seven Leaves," but it might just say, "Hi Pam, would you like your usual?" Because we saw that you came within proximity of our stores. It's recognizing your vehicle, your mobile app is giving us your history, and then you can absolutely say yes and just pull forward. And so it's a very nuanced experience. Some people might get a little bit of anxiety, but this wave of technology is coming. And I think it's a good thing for our industry.
Wow, that is cutting edge. I was going to ask you what you meant by drive-through technology, but then you went on to explain that about how you can maybe geotag or use those locators to figure out people that are close to your store that have come to your store before because they have the app, and that's all very cool. I just think this is a really cool concept, really cutting edge. When you think about the coffee and tea space, let's be honest, Newton, it's crowded. You can find a coffee shop on lots of different corners depending on where you are in the world, but this is a unique concept within that space, and obviously being very successful with consumers. Well, we've talked about a lot of different things today, but is there anything else you'd like to leave with our audience before you go, Newton?
Just to thank everyone, especially you, for allowing me the opportunity to kind of give you some ear candy. But for those who just don't know who our brand is, we are definitely kind of an underdog story by DNA. Our founders were immigrants from Vietnam. But be on the lookout for us in the next 2 to 3 years as we kind of disrupt things. I really believe that despite all the crowded nature of what our segment is and has to offer, we remain extremely confident that our brand messaging and positioning are going to keep us relevant in the eyes of our customers. And as I continue to add in subtle technology improvements, we're only going to get better. And so, like anything else, I'm appreciative to be part of this industry as a whole. I love hospitality; it's in my DNA. And like anything else, if the last 2.5 years have proven anything to our industry, that we're very resilient, and therefore we're going to come out better, even stronger on the other side.
Yes, your industry is resilient, and I love how humbly you just say, look out for us over the next couple of years as we continue to disrupt this segment. I just like your delivery on that, Newton. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and for sharing your mission with Seven Leaves Cafe and your unique position really with the marketing and the IT. But as you explain it, it all makes so much sense and obviously is very successful. I also want to thank our sponsor, Farm to Plate. They're enabling better food supply chain management today. If you want to know more, you can go to farmtoplate.io. I'm Pam Line-Miller, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to Future Foodcast. Future Foodcast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.